UFC Vegas 103, Manuel Cape versus Asua Mabayev. This is the Funkin' Flex MMA preview and prediction show. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. While you're here, hit the like button, hit subscribe. I got 2 videos coming out a week. This is the preview and prediction show coming out every Wednesday at 8:30, and Fridays we have the betting breakdowns where I dive a little bit deeper into the card. These being just my early picks, coming off of a 7-5 week last week on the picks. Not the most exciting results, but it was a pretty good fight card in UFC Seattle. We did have the first 7 fights end in finishes, and for fight nights, that's not something that we always see, especially towards the end of last year where we were with the new gloves that seemed to hinder power punches and the ultimately how many knockouts we were seeing on these cards. Thankfully, it was a great card. Unfortunately, ended in controversy. Henry Cejudo was losing that fight, though. It would have been nice to see how that would have ended out in the fourth and fifth round. However, we saw the eye poke and the weird resume of the fight just to stop it in the fourth, so he could lose a decision. Cejudo could lose the decision. But nonetheless, a great card on paper. This one coming up in Vegas 103 does not appear to be the most exciting, but we do have Alex Pereira and Ankalaev coming up next week, and I'm very excited about that one. I'm still excited about this Vegas card, just may not be deploying as many units as we're getting ready for Pereira. But we'll go ahead and jump into the first fight of the night between Montana De La Rosa and Luana Carolina. And when I first heard this matchup, I instantly wanted to bet Luana Carolina, but upon further thought, Luana Carolina does not tend to have the greatest takedown defense, and when she does get taken down, she is vulnerable to be on her back for the remainder of the round, and that's really Montana De La Rosa's game. I think this is a good a sell high spot for Luana Carolina, and also a spot where you can buy Montana De La Rosa low on the underdog here. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in a decision where Montana De La Rosa can just kind of dominate with top control. But also, I'm looking to see what the submission number looks like when we get props, because I think that Montana De La Rosa is live for a late sub here as well. Nonetheless, we will start off the card with a dog pick in De La Rosa. Second fight of the night, we have Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. And while Charles Johnson is the prospect buster, and this is another one where initially I did want to pick Johnson, I am going to be switching my pick to Temirov. He will be the pick this week because I think that he is just different than other prospects. Lots of power in his hands, and while he doesn't necessarily always do the best at setting them up, he does have good takedowns that he can mix in as well. I don't think that he'll really be looking for that though, as I think that the power that he has at flyweight is insane, and I really do think that he's live to crack Johnson and put him out. However, if this fight goes late, I could see Johnson winning by points, so it's not a very confident pick, but I will be leaning Temirov here. I think that he's just gonna, be the prospect that people are expecting, and I don't really have much more of a breakdown than that. I think that he hits harder than Charles Johnson, and at 125, that means something. Moving along, Andrea KGB Lee versus JJ Aldrich. And Andrea Lee, I think, just is a little too far out of her prime years to win this fight. Not that I'm very impressed by JJ Aldrich, and it's not a confident decision in this one, but she will be the pick. I think that her boxing is just a little bit crisper on the feet, and that's where Andrea Lee likes to win. She does throw good low kicks, and if she can chew up the leg of JJ Aldridge and keep her kind of stationary, without that forward pressure that Aldridge just likes to walk into shots, I think Andrea Lee can have some success. But I think the hands of JJ Aldridge are just going to be a little bit quicker, and probably will be a split decision for JJ Aldridge. Up next, we have Danny Silva versus Lucas Almeida. And for this one, I'm going to be going Lucas Almeida. I know that he is very questionable chin, and I do think Danny Silva is going to be a lot of people's pick this week. I think that Lucas Almeida thrives in the kinds of fights that Danny Silva likes to make. Another one that just likes to have forward pressure, walking, eating shots to give his. And I think that Lucas Almeida cracks people when that happens. So I'm going to be playing the knockout for Lucas Almeida. That's a little insight to the early betting breakdown, but I'm just not convinced that he has many other ways to win it. So it's not a confident pick, as a lot of these early ones have not been on this card. But I'm gonna be leaning for the early pick to Lucas Almeida. Moving along to Douglas Silva de Andrade and John Castaneda. And Silva de Andrade is another one of those veterans that's just checked a lot of the up and coming class. But I think at 39 years old, he's got a match here that's going to be too tough for him to come out on top. John Castaneda, great boxing, very well rounded in all areas, as Silva de Andrade is as well. De Andrade probably has the grappling advantage in this fight, but I think John Castaneda has the wrestling advantage, and he's going to be able to control where this fight goes. Not that Castaneda is going to implement a wrestling game plan in this, because I think that wouldn't be wise against someone like De Andrade with great jiu-jitsu. But I think John Castaneda is going to be the quicker, more technical striker, and he'll be able to avoid the power of De Andrade and ultimately get a win here, whether that be by a late finish or a decision, in my eyes, most likely. We're going John Castaneda for the pick. Moving along, we have Ricardo Ramos and Chepe Mariscal. And while the pick is going to be Chepe Mariscal in this one, it's not a confident one. If you can't tell, that's the theme tonight. I love Ricardo Ramos at a plus 400 underdog, nearly at 385, as he's training with the Fighting Nerds, and those guys are just on absolute fire, especially the men in that gym. Chepe Mariscal, great boxer. He does crack very hard for 145 pounds. As you can see, he struggles to always get down the full weight, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out at the end of this week. But Ricardo Ramos with great grappling, I think that he could give Chepe Mariscal more of a problem than a plus 385 dog. So while the picks purposes is going to be Chepe Mariscal, I'm definitely going to be eyeing Ricardo Ramos's props here for the betting breakdown come Friday. Moving along, we have a matchup between Austin Lane and Mario Pinto. Austin Lane coming off of the huge underdog upset over Robelis de Spain that ultimately got de Spain cut, as the UFC probably felt like they were giving him a layup to just put away Austin Lane and cut Austin Lane. But he did dominate a wrestling decision. While it wasn't the most exciting fight, he did get the job done. And as a former NFL player, ultimately, I believe that he's going to be able to do the same in this fight if he wants to. I think that it could be a brawl early, and Austin Lane ate some shots from Robelis de Spain, who has really just been sleeping everyone in the first round, first minute of the first round even. Austin Lane proved to have a little bit of durability to eat some shots and then ultimately get his wrestling game implemented. As a former NFL player, I believe that he might be able to do the same to this UFC debuter. So for that, we're going to go ahead and pick Austin Lane as an unpopular decision win. Up next, a matchup between Danny Barlow and Sam Patterson. Sam Patterson taking on a lot of money as a public dog this week, who has a great jiu-jitsu and really could give some grappling problems to Danny Barlow, who we haven't seen. However, Sam Patterson does like to kind of hang from the outside and use those kicks, tricky kicks, to kind of get the opponent off the back foot to be able to shoot a takedown. And I don't know that he's going to be able to do that against Danny Barlow, who has a left hand straight down the middle that can sleep anyone on the roster. I think that Danny Barlow throws crisp uppercuts and knees too. And if Sam Patterson starts becoming desperate with shots when he's losing on the feet, I think that it could be an early night for Sam Patterson, or Danny Barlow could piece him up for 3 rounds and win a decision. I know we've seen a lot of prospects being busted, and Danny Barlow with the split decision to Varentenikov, who just got absolutely dominated by another UFC debuter in Austin Vanderford. I don't think that Sam Patterson's really going to have the same level of success that Varentenikov was able to have on the feet. I think that if Patterson gets it to the ground, he's live for a submission, which will be an interesting prop to look at the number. But I do think that for the pick's sake, Danny Barlow is going to be a pick. Up next, Hyder Emil versus William Gomi. And for this one, I'm going to be probably on the unpopular side, and Hyder Emil as well. I think that he's able to create an explosive fight, and William Gomi, who likes to have a technical kickboxing match as typical French kickboxer, he'll stand back and point fight you. I don't think that Hyder Emil is going to let him do that. Hyder Emil with great takedowns and also with the pressure style that he can just swing and put you away early. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that come this Saturday. For the pick, we're going to keep this one short and sweet and go with the other undefeated prospect and Hyder Emil to get a big underdog win this week. Up next is the featured fight of the main card. We have Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. And the pick's going to be Ribovics as after he had that war with Zellhuber. I think that that's going to catapult his career to the next level as he did really learn some lessons without getting all the way knocked out, as his chin was just really fully shown on display of what it can hold. And Haqparast, well, he does have a lot of power in his hands. I think that Ribovics is going to be able to survive the early power and really fight until Nasrat's gassed later in the fight. I could see a 2-3 finish if Ribovics can put it together like he did against Zellhuber, who's just unhuman tough. So yeah, I don't know if Haqparast has half of the chin that Daniel Zellhuber has. So we're going to go ahead and go Esteban Ribovics for the pick, although I could be convinced into sprinkling a little bit on Nasrat early KO. Up next is the co-main event. We have Cody Brundage and Julian Marquez, and I don't know how this is a co-main event. I think there's several fights on this card that are way better and more intriguing matchups than this. That being said, I'm going to have to go with the dog here in Cody Brundage, who's just taken way less damage. Julian Marquez might be the more technical fighter, might win the more technical exchanges, but I think Cody Brundage has more power, and we've seen that he has decent wrestling game too. I don't think Marquez is going to be able to get takedowns if he needs to, but Cody Brundage will. So for that purpose, I'm going to go with the 4-year younger fighter who's taken less damage and I believe hits harder in Cody Brundage for the pick. Main event time, Manuel Cape versus Asu Almabayev. I think that Cape is going to be the pick here, guys. I'm pretty confident in this one. In fact, it might be the lock of the week, not to give you guys any spoilers, but I do really like the main events, and I feel like I've been getting a great read on the main events this year. I think this is just too big of a step for Asu Almabayev, who really was given some problems by Mateus Nicolau in his last fight. I think Manuel Cape, who was training for Brennan Royval, has really worked on his wrestling and grappling, but also his striking is going to be just as crisp as ever. And we saw in that loss to Mokaev where he broke his foot, or his toes rather, nasty early on in that fight and was still able to tough out a hard-fought decision. I think that Cape is just going to really dominate in this matchup, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a finish here when Almabayev can't get his takedowns. So that'll be the preview and prediction show this week, guys. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Funk and Flex MMA, so you can keep an eye out for the official picks, as well as every video that I post. You'll get an update on the story there to see Wednesdays and Fridays. Get a little reminder to tune in. Make sure we can get those bets in before the lines change. This video just be in the picks. I do appreciate all the support you guys give me. Smash that like button on your way out. Hit subscribe. Really just gives me the motivation to keep going, guys. I see this channel growing. We get this community. I'd love to hit at least 50 subscribers by come summertime. Going to UFC 314 in Miami, so I might do some sort of giveaway. But just make sure you stay tuned on the gram. You'll see all the updates there. Funk and Flex MMA. I appreciate all the love again, guys, and we'll see you on Friday for the betting breakdown.